What's going on YouTube? It's Philip Benz with Benz Productions, and today we're going to be breaking down another one of my videos. As usual, we're going to be doing this thing shot by shot, but before we get into that, I want you to go ahead and click subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you can be notified every single time I upload a new video. So before we get into this, the way we're going to do it as usual is we're going to watch the video first. We're going to watch the entire thing all the way through. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and break it down shot by shot so you can know exactly what I did in that particular shot, on the scene, during the scenario, what direction I gave, stuff like that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this one. All right, that was that video right there. So this was a shorter commercial project that I did sometime in 2019. So this was a lot of fun. I'm gonna give a quick couple of shout outs really fast. So shout out to the owner of this F450, Michael Reeves. He's actually based right on the border of South Carolina and North Carolina. It was a really fun shoot and he was awesome. The client was actually Airlift Suspension Company. So they reached out to me. They put kind of me and Michael in contact because they kind of wanted to show off his truck. They wanted to show off a Mustang too that he had, but he actually sold it before the shoot. So we really just wanted to focus on the truck this time. The last shout out I want to give is to the assistant that helped me out that day, Michael Jones with Raiden Video Productions. He's based out of Goldsboro, North Carolina. He helped me out so much that day, and without him or even without an assistant, I would not have been able to get half these shots that I got, especially the driving shots, and we're gonna go into those. So let's go ahead and do this thing shot by shot. So that first shot right there, just that nice, just driving shot, just kind of to open up the scene. You'll notice this time, a lot of videos will kind of fade from black into the video. This one I did not. Now, if I'm gonna be doing these breakdown videos, I should probably break down you know, the music choice and the style I'm going for and the energy that I'm going for. That's always really important when it comes to creating any type of video, whether it's, you know, a narrative, a documentary, a wedding film, commercial film, any of those. So you always want to have some sort of idea before you go into it. All that being said, I knew I wanted to go for an upbeat vibe with the music, and that's exactly what we did. I get all of my music from audiojungle.net, so that's www.audiojungle.net. This is not copyright free until you buy the rights to it. That's very important, especially if you're just starting out. You don't just want to, you know, use any track or popular song because one, if you put it on YouTube or Facebook, Instagram, any social media platform, it's going to probably get flagged or taken down. And two, you know, you got to give the artist some sort of credit, especially, you know, that's how they get paid. So that's kind of the way we do that. So this first shot right here, it's just a kind of, it's just a simple driving shot. Now, I've done these driving shots a couple different ways before. You want to have a kind of like a follow vehicle in front of the vehicle that you're shooting. You want the one truck, or you want the vehicle that you're shooting to be in the normal lane, and then you want the vehicle that you're in to be in the opposite lane. So that way you're not just getting the grill of the truck. You're also going to be getting the grill, the side, the quarter panels, and even if you look at this shot, the back of the trailer right here. So the way that we did this was I brought my Prius along, and the Prius has a hatchback on it. So we actually just lifted the hatch up, and even though it may look like we're going fast, we're only going probably about 30 miles an hour. So you don't need to go 55 in order to get a shot like this. So we're only going about 30 miles an hour. I'm actually sitting in the entire hatch. I don't have my legs hanging off or anything like that. And what I'm doing is I also have my gimbal. So I'm literally sitting in the car like this sideways. Here's the bumper. And I have my gimbal like this. And I'm really just making sure that the camera's nice and steady, but the biggest thing that I'm paying attention to is my framing, the rule of thirds. I'm gonna put a grid up here so you guys know what I'm talking about. Instead of giving the truck a leading look, I want to go ahead and frame up the road. I wanted to frame up kind of the field area back here, and the truck is really the big main focal point. And this is something, it wasn't like a one-take deal. We had to do this multiple times, and what we did, we just kind of turned it around. It was kind of a pain in the ass with a trailer for Michael, but luckily he drives one of those things every day, so he was able to make some pretty quick work of it. This is kind of like a detail shot, kind of like what we would see in a wedding video or a commercial shoot or anything like that. You know, this thing has 4 tires on the back of it. I wanted to get that. So what we did right here, the way we got this, once again, I'm in the chase vehicle or the follow vehicle, whatever you want to call it. And the whole time that I'm in this vehicle, Michael's driving. So I'm telling my assistant to go ahead and, you know, keep up with Michael. And I'm also relaying the message to Michael before we do that particular shot. I want you to keep your truck and the trailer at a constant 30 miles an hour. I don't want you to go no faster, no slower. Once you get to 30, keep it there. Once he got up to his speed, I asked Michael, the assistant, to go ahead and kind of just slowly creep up on or next to Michael in the truck. And the way I got this was I'm actually holding the gimbal out the window. And as we are slowly passing by, I'm kind of turning it like that. And that's really just so we can go ahead and get some nice movement going on, you know, just to kind of get that shot, you know, looking the way that we wanted to. We had to get the badge. We had to get the F450 badge, just, you know, to show the vehicle. It's just another kind of like a quick shot. This was when we had the truck parked. We were doing some nice detail shots of the truck. Get any small details like this when you're doing your wide detail. Get anything that you can while the truck is in a particular scene that you liked. We were shooting this in the middle of the day. The sunlight was harsh, but I'm gonna get into color grading at the end of this to kind of show you guys what I did with the harsh light and how I was kind of thinking for the edit. This is once again a gimbal shot with my 18-35. I'm gonna use my gimbal throughout this entire shoot. The gimbal is an amazing tool. There's a lot of people that are against using it for every single shot, but if you know how to use it, if you know how to vary up your focal length, if you know how to go from close to medium to wide, and then if you kind of know how to edit with the music and edit with the flow of the tempo of the music, you know, it's a great tool and it makes really fast work. This is probably one of my favorite shots. So, you know, I'm not a truck guy. I wish I had one, but I'm not a truck guy. I had no idea that some of these trucks come with a button that you can just push and the tailgate just slowly comes down like that. When Michael showed me that, I was like, dude, that's gonna be a really awesome shot, because at first we were just going to put the tailgate down and have him back into, to hook up this trailer right here. When he told me that, I was like, look, if you're comfortable with it, because I don't want you to damage your truck or anything, I want you just to slowly back up and I want you to press that button. And as he pressed that button, what I'm doing with the gimbal is I'm walking right. Okay, so I'm kind of sidestepping to the right, and as I'm walking right, you're gonna see this movement right here. So I'm very softly and subtly moving to the right. And what this is creating, it's creating that cinematic feel. It's just creating that style, that movement style that I like to incorporate. So that's kind of where that comes into play. But this is a really, really cool shot. And then we need a quick action shot of Michael. So what we did was, this wasn't even a stage shot. This was, you know, him actually hooking the trailer up to the truck, because we needed the trailer to do our driving shots. So we went ahead and just knocked out all of this solo stuff with the truck by itself first. And then I just kind of threw it into the edit wherever I needed it to. If you're ever shooting a vehicle type of thing like this, the vehicle is going to be clean and spotless, or at least you hope it will, before you go to shoot. So in order to make the most use of that, we decided to get every detail shot we could of the truck that we knew we were going to need before we hooked it up to a trailer, before we took it into a field, before we drove it through water or anything like that. So definitely keep that in mind. Get your beauty shots before you get your action shots. This is another one of my favorite shots. And you'll also hear with the tempo of the music, why I did the fade out. And then you kind of hear in the background, I don't know what instrument it is or whatever, but it's just kind of like a ooh, and then we go into like the breakdown of it. Okay, so with that tempo kind of picking up and building, that I wanted to create that suspense with the edit by fading to black and then fading back up and just showing a shot of the truck standalone. You know, I feel like this tree was meant for us to park a truck right there and shoot it. When I first saw this thing, we pulled up and me and Michael were kind of scouting the location. We were waiting for Michael, the owner of the truck, to finish shining up the tires and all that. And I told Michael, I was like, do you see that tree over there? And he was like, what tree? And we went ahead, I walked over there, I was like, I am shooting through this tree. It's like a perfect little triangle. It's gonna be a frame within a frame type of thing. And we're gonna go ahead and follow the rule of thirds with the truck, with the thing itself. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the gimbal, we're gonna have focus already set on my B point. You never wanna set focus on the A point. You wanna set focus on your ending point so it can come into focus. And what we did was just went straight through that log right there. I think I had my lens zoomed in all the way at 35 to really make that movement kind of as if the tree was really coming towards you. But all I'm doing is just very slowly moving towards the subject, which is the truck. And I'm not walking, because walking would have, even with the gimbal, you would have had this bump up and down. So what I'm doing is, someone taught me this years ago. You want to start in the most uncomfortable position and you want to end up in the most comfortable position. So the most uncomfortable for a gimbal shot like this is going to be literally all the way back. So imagine you're standing up and you're leaning all the way back. Your legs are kind of wide. Your back leg is kind of supporting your weight. And then all you're doing is just shifting very slowly just with your hips and your back going forward like this. Whenever I'm using a gimbal, it looks like I'm doing yoga. So it's always pretty funny to watch, but the end result works pretty well. You'll kind of see the same effect. So this is not a branch up here. This is just an old piece of equipment. I forgot exactly what it was. It looks like that is a trailer hitch right there. I could be wrong. But this was an old piece of equipment, and I wanted to do the same thing with the tree. I just wanted to kind of slowly come in like that. You'll see this grass right here in the foreground. It's all blurred out. It was just another frame within a frame type of aspect. And when it came to the edit, this was the perfect way to just transition from this shot to the next by using the same frame of afraid method. A lot of times when you do these commercial shoots, or you do any shoot, 9 times out of 10, you are unfamiliar with the subject itself. So what I like to do is I like to familiarize myself with the action before I even say action or shoot or anything like that. So as he's chaining this thing up, I said, Michael, do me a favor. I want you to go ahead and can you show me, I guess, just put one chain on the tractor. Can you just show me, I guess, what the process is that goes into it? So, you know, it was really hot this day. So without putting him through too much hell, I got him to do that action, and he showed it to me, and he was showing me the crank that he's tightening down that chain with. And I was like, dude, this is gonna be a really cool shot. So I said, look, man, go ahead and do your thing, but take your time with it, okay? I know you're probably used to this. I know you probably can knock this thing out within a couple minutes, but I want you just to take your time with it because that's gonna help me get the shot that I need. So what I did for this particular shot is he's doing his thing, and I'm kind of looking for my framing. So not everything I do is fake or staged. Some of it is pretty natural. This is a natural thing that he's doing. So I found my framing that I liked, and I decided, let's go ahead and do that. Michael, pause on that really quick. Go ahead, and once I get my framing and my exposure and all that, and my focus, now let's go ahead and start cranking back again. So that's how we got that shot. So that's a stage shot right here. Michael kind of just like looking at the tractor. What I wanted Michael to do in this instance was to pretty much just check out, you know, I think my direction to him was go ahead and kind of walk around the load, you know, make sure everything's secure and this and that. I think at one point what I did was as he walks, he grabs on this chain right here just to make sure it's nice and tight. But I don't think I used that particular part. What I wanted was really just him nice framed up. Got the tractor on the left-hand side and the field back here. And really just kind of to see that work that he put in. And he fits the role perfect. Like, if you think of someone that drives trucks like this and hauls, heavy equipment, you would think of a guy with a beard and a baseball cap on. So, I mean, it's a perfect scenario for this. And what I'd want to do for the next shot, obviously, the truck's important. The truck is the center of the show. So, we had this shot with Michael, so I just said, hey, let's go ahead and let's get behind you. And do me a favor, it's super hot outside. I want you to look like you're working hard too. Go ahead and take that hat off. When I say action 1, I want you to start walking. When I say action 2, I kind of just want you to rub your hair and put your hat on, okay? And this is something else I observed him doing before this shot. So, always be on the lookout with your eyes of things that you can potentially shoot to make your shots more interesting. Because we could have just, went from A to B and just had him walking, and then we could have just went ahead and had him going towards the camera or towards the truck, and it would have worked out perfect. But I want to go ahead and add that action in there. And I also want to showcase the truck in the background that he's getting into. I try to take the same approach that I do with my gimbal shots. So instead of just doing a simple fly shot, like when you're flying in or you're flying out, I like to incorporate that movement. So you'll notice what I'm doing is, as he's going up this dirt road, what I did was I took the drone. Imagine this piece of paper right here. Yeah, you can see it. Imagine this piece of paper is the road. I start on this side right here. As he's driving straight, I just curve like this, and I want to say I'm tilting down. Yep. So I'm just curving like this with the controllers, and then I have a Mavic Pro, so I have the little wheel on the edge of the control that helps me tilt the camera up or down. So as I'm kind of orbiting like this and flying straight at the same time, I'm also orbiting down like this. Now, when you're doing these drone shots, there was no way for him to turn around until he got to this house. This is a long stretch, so it's kind of like, it's not a one-shot deal, but you really want your experience to take over in this scenario and get the shot on take 1. Let's say you don't get a shot on take 1. Don't be embarrassed to say, hey, I messed up. Never be embarrassed to say that. Yes, you are the professional, you got hired, but you're not perfect. So if you make a mistake, go ahead and say, hey, let's go ahead and do another take. We're gonna definitely knock it out this try, and you use the best one out of those 2 takes. Second to last shot. So this one right here. Once again, we're showcasing the truck. So for this one, it's kind of very similar to our first shot. It's very similar to this one. I actually got both of these shots at the same time. So we have this driving shot, but now with this shot, what I want to do is reveal. I didn't have a tree to shoot through this time. I didn't have an old trailer hitch to reveal the truck. So all I did was I just used the sky, and I took my gimbal, I kind of broke my wrist this way so the camera's pointing up. And as we're driving back, this is a super simple movement because, Michael, my assistant, is doing all the driving. So literally all I have to do is keep the truck framed up and tilt down while he's driving forward. So that's how we revealed this truck. Then the very last shot is a detail of the truck again. So with this one, I knew that I wanted to either open this video up or close it with just a standalone, nice scenic shot with the truck. Now, when I'm framing this, I have to keep in mind, we're not just gonna frame the truck in the middle, okay? We have to imagine that this is someone's face, okay? So imagine that this is someone's face, the grill of the truck is that person's nose. We wanna give a shot like this. We wanna give a shot like this adequate nose room and adequate headroom up here. But we wanna frame it in a way to where it's gonna look really good. You're not just thinking about the truck or the subject, you're also thinking about the background. So this tree right here, I wanna go ahead and make sure that was nicely framed within the shot. I want to make sure that this water was nicely framed. Because see, if we would have had this tree coming directly out of the top of the truck, you wouldn't have known what was wrong, but you would have just been thrown off in your head and it just wouldn't have ended the video nicely for you. So that's how we got this particular shot. You know, it wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't a crazy shot, but these little details matter, especially with framing and knowing the rules of third. Also little details like, for example, Michael just finished shining the tires, so I want to go ahead and show those off. Instead of just having these things straight, I went ahead and kind of showed off that rim, showed off the tire itself, and really just make the truck stand out. So you always shoot for the edit. So when I say shoot for the edit, I'm not only talking about the story, I'm talking about, you know, your color grading too. Like, what do you have in mind for that? I know that I'm gonna color grade at a more natural, warm tone. So the way I do, the way I set up for that in the camera is I shoot on Cine-like D. I don't change anything within the camera. I don't change sharpness, I don't change saturation, contrast, all of that stuff stays the same. Now, the reason why I shoot in Cine-like D is it's a flatter profile than like a natural look, but it's not as flat as log. Log is super flat. It almost looks black and white. It's really muted, and people use log to really grade the hell out of stuff. And if you shoot log, by all means, go for it if it works for you. But with the end result that I like to get, I do like to have that pop of color and saturation in there, so that's why I like Cine-like D. What I would do in this instance is we're shooting outside. So your shot is gonna be very blue for the most part. Now, in your white balance settings on your camera, there's 3 different ways you can do it. There are 2 that I recommend. So the first way is auto. I don't recommend auto. It works, but if you're going from one light source to another light source, let's say you're going from yellow lights to blue lights, you're gonna have this shift that you cannot edit out. The way that you would edit out is frame by frame, and that's no fun. You don't want to do that. The other 2 options is you have the little quick icons like the sunshine icon, the cloudy, tungsten, fluorescent, stuff like that. That's what I personally like to use. It's quick. It's a quick setting. It's still manual because it's staying where you want it to stay at, but it's kind of just going for that common denominator number of Kelvin. That brings us to the third way. The third way is actually manually setting the Kelvin value. So for example, in a sunny shot like this, the Kelvin value on the little icons is gonna probably be set to 5500. That's just the amount of blue light, orange light, blah, blah, blah. That 5500 is really good for sunlight. If we have a tungsten type of scenario, you know, those yellow lights, that's gonna be really good for like a 3700 type of scenario. So know all your settings, know your camera in and out, and know what those numbers mean. Once you know all that stuff, you can choose whatever options you want. You can break the rules, but you have to know how to break the rules in a way that's going to work. So that's why I use the quick icons. I know all about Kelvin, but the quick icons help me be more efficient and fast on the shoot. All of that being said, helps me set up for the color grade. Instead of having this blue light that's coming in, now we have to make it a little bit more natural. So what I'm gonna do in this instance is I'm gonna take the master color wheel and I'm going to warm it up just a little bit to eliminate the blue and really make this thing natural. The other thing I like to do after I get the color the way I want it is I go ahead and I go to my shadows or my blacks, and I like to crush those blacks down a little bit. I'm not talking about a lot. I'm talking about like maybe a couple of percent, just so, for example, just so it's not flat looking anymore. It's adding a little bit of contrast. Now, the other thing I like to do after I crush the blacks a little bit is I want to go ahead and increase my highlights. So, for example, the sky is going to be a highlight. These lights are going to be a highlight. Anything that is not dark in this particular thing is going to be a highlight. So I like to increase those a little bit because I go for a more light and airy type of look, even though this is kind of just like a tad bit overexposed but natural. And then with mids, I don't necessarily mess with my mid exposure at all. I like to keep that the same. Now, once you mess around with your shadows and your highlights, that's when you can kind of determine if you need to use your mids. Now, I don't use scopes or anything like that when I color grade. I do it all by my eyes. If I like the image that I see, I don't need a scope telling me, or I don't need a graph or a pictogram telling me what is supposed to look right, like what is supposed to be natural. You can use that as a guide if you want to, but I know the look that I'm going for, and I also know that once I like something, I like it. So I don't try to be too crazy about the color grade itself. And that's pretty much how I color grade. I really just go for, like I said, that natural look, but a little overexposed and a little warm. And then another thing I do is I go ahead and I increase the saturation just a little bit. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Once again, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.